up, you guys? My name is Aubrey and this is my channel, and today we're going to be talking about Janet Yellen and some of the comments that she had made about the economy, stimulus checks, and the $1.9 trillion stimulus package. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down her comments, what it means for potential future stimulus, as well as future stimulus checks. So let's get started. Now, before we begin, I would like to note that you guys may notice that this setup and the lighting is slightly different than normal, and that is definitely intentional. So I've been doing this YouTube channel now for over a year, and whenever I started YouTube, I knew nothing about lighting, filming, cameras, or any of that stuff. My goal was to just learn along the way. And even though I have learned quite a lot over the last year about editing and creating videos and cameras and all that type of stuff, I still do not know a whole lot. So I finally have decided to pull the trigger and hire somebody to help me. I actually hired somebody off of Upwork who is a lighting and production expert, and he is helping me just take this YouTube studio to the next level. So we have some new lights that are being ordered, some new equipment, some new set items. Really, I'm just wanting to take this entire setup and the quality of these videos to the next level. But in the meantime, while we are working through the setup change, you guys may see a slight decrease in video quality. I know that this setup right here, right now, looks darker than normal, and that's because we are changing some things around. It's kind of hard to make some significant changes on a set that you are having to use every single day. So for the time being, we're having to use kind of a makeshift set while we're getting the main set all set up and all finalized. So in the meantime, bear with me. I know that the quality may suck for a little bit, but it will improve drastically in the coming weeks, and I am super, super pumped about it. Now, yesterday, Janet Yellen gave an interview on CNBC, and she didn't have a ton of super significant things to say, but she did have a few key updates that really, I think, are going to be indicative to us getting more stimulus checks in the future. Now, for those of you who don't know who Janet Yellen is, she is the Secretary of Treasury, so she is somebody that is really directly involved in stimulus negotiations and stimulus checks and interest rates and things like that. She is a very key figure whenever we were discussing the economy and stimulus packages. So whenever she was on CNBC yesterday, she made a few key comments. Number one is she indicated that she thinks that the $1.9 trillion stimulus package needs to get passed ASAP. And she thinks that if we do not pass a large package, the effects of that will be severely negative compared to if we just bit the bullet and passed a large package right now in February of 2021. Her comment to this was something along the lines of, we are digging ourselves into a deeper and deeper hole every day that the pandemic is going on and every day that the economy is struggling. And if we do not take an extreme action like passing a $1.9 trillion stimulus package, then that hole will be harder and harder to get out of. She also indicated that the unemployment rate is probably closer to about 10% rather than the 6.3% that was reported in January of this year. Additionally, and on this same note, she really emphasized the importance of stimulus checks. And in the interview, though she didn't say it, I felt like she was indicating the fact that stimulus checks probably aren't going away anytime soon, and that this $1,400 stimulus check probably will not be the last stimulus check we see this year. Now, this is something that I found to be quite interesting because it directly contradicts my theory that I had. Now, of course, I'm not saying Janet Yellen is wrong. She, of course, knows way better than I do on this topic, but my theory for quite a while was that I didn't think we would see another stimulus check after this $1,400 one that is currently being negotiated. The reason is because lawmakers are just taking so long to pass anything substantial, and that by the time this $1,400 check gets passed and gets distributed, it's going to be summertime, and then by then, hopefully, we are close to the light at the end of the tunnel of the pandemic. And by that point, I think there will be an argument that lawmakers will make that we don't need another stimulus check. Now, whether or not that argument is valid is something that has remained to be seen, but I do think it's surprising that Janet Yellen seems fairly confident that we will see more stimulus checks and more stimulus packages throughout 2021, and that this $1.9 trillion package that is currently being discussed doesn't seem to be the last of the packages. Now, pivoting to a different discussion that was had during this Janet Yellen interview is the topic of the stock market. Now, this is a super interesting topic for a couple of different reasons. Number one is that whenever the pandemic started, the market market tanked almost immediately, but almost as quickly as it tanked, it recovered, and it never stopped recovering. It just kept going up for the entire year of 2020. And even now, in the first 6 or 7 weeks of 2021, the market has been performing extremely strong. But the fact is, financial experts agree that it's not a matter of if the market's going to go down, it's simply a matter of when. And there's been a lot of speculation about what has caused the market to go up so substantially over the last year. Has it been stimulus checks? Has it been stimulus packages? Has it been low interest rates? What has been the cause of the market going up so substantially, despite the fact that all indicators point to the fact the economy is struggling quite hard? And she had also indicated that taking into account all of the different factors that are playing into the economy right now, it's actually not really unexpected to be seeing the market performing as well as it's performing. She did indicate, though, that there are a few key sectors throughout the market that may be overinflated, though she didn't indicate which ones specifically she was talking about. And lastly is the topic of Bitcoin, and Janet Yellen was pressed about what her thoughts on Bitcoin are, both the evaluation of Bitcoin as well as just the regulation aspect of Bitcoin as a whole. And Janet Yellen did indicate that she thinks that Bitcoin is probably a bit overvalued. She said it's a highly speculative asset, and when kind of questioned about whether or not it should be regulated, she indicated that she did think it should be regulated. And she had also made comments indicating that not only does she think that Bitcoin itself should be regulated, but also the institutions and the platform that facilitate Bitcoin buying and selling should be regulated as well. Now, this topic of regulating Bitcoin, I think, will be a really interesting topic to explore going forward, and I'm really interested to keep a close eye on this discussion because I think there will be a lot of pushback on the topic of regulating Bitcoin and regulating institutions that facilitate Bitcoin buying and selling. The fact that Bitcoin isn't as regulated as traditional currency or as stocks, I think, is one of the reasons why Bitcoin is attractive and why cryptocurrency is attractive. And I think that once the government steps in and they start kind of facilitating these transactions and they start facilitating Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a whole, I think it's going to cause a lot of issues. And so I'm really interested to see kind of how that ends up playing out and what the resolution to that could be. Ultimately, though, you guys, what we found out in this interview isn't super new compared to what we already knew about Janet Yellen and the Biden administration stance on stimulus. The fact is, they've been pretty outspoken on the fact that they believe that the only way to get the American economy back to where it needs to be is through a large, punchy stimulus package. And the fact that she's reiterated this in this interview is no shock at all. But I do think it's interesting to hear her stance on stimulus checks specifically. And I think after this interview with Janet Yellen, I am convinced that we probably will see another stimulus check after this $1,400 one that's currently being negotiated in Washington. But I think it's safe to assume that there is a high likelihood that any checks after this $1,400 one will be significantly more targeted, that it will be targeted and paid out to people that need it rather than it based off of the criteria that we've been using thus far. But with that being said, you guys, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you have anything to add, make sure to leave a comment down below. Make sure that if you guys are interested in learning more about the EIDL program or the PPP, to check out my friends over at HelloSkip. They have a really great EIDL tracker. And if you're somebody who is wanting to know if you qualify for the targeted EIDL cash advance, that EIDL tracker will really, really help. I will leave a link to that down in the description below. But I appreciate you guys watching, and I appreciate you guys bearing with me while we were making changes to the YouTube studio. I cannot wait for you guys to check it out. And make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.